Welcome to the Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at pitching on today's Saturday slate, and we're starting kind of at the 4:05 time because FanDuel, DraftKings is a little bit different is the way they attack their main slate. And kind of interesting because on FanDuel, you don't have Kershaw on that main slate. So, I mean, it's the 7 o'clock games in 4, and that's it.
Yeah, which is kind of a bummer for FanDuel because it's one pitcher, and then in cash you can just – oh, okay, I don't have to think today and just throw them in and then figure out the rest of your lineup. But, yeah, I mean, that would have made cash pretty easy. But, hey, all right, well, we got to think, so let's get moving.
I mean, at least there's some options. I mean, in comparison to DraftKings on their main slate, you have Clayton Kershaw at $14K and then nobody else.
I know. Yeah, we were throwing out some ideas before the show. I was actually throwing out ideas that I wasn't very proud of. And
I was just King Kong on the building, swatting them down.
We probably aren't going to bring those up, but we probably are. So, yeah, I don't know.
Jumping right into things, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Marcus Stroman versus Steven Wright, over under 9.5. Wright's kind of gotten to a price tag where you don't feel as comfortable using him as you did in the past. But overall, I mean, kind of still a viable option in GPPs, but I think I'm just going to stay away at the price tag.
I think he's viable for GPPs. Toronto hits home runs, but I mean, other than that, like they don't seem to put it together all at once. It's like Donaldson hit a home run tonight, and then the next day Batista hit a home run, and then the next game, it's like they scored 3 runs and then Encarnacion hit a 3-run homer. So it's kind of like they don't really consolidate their funds is how I would describe it. I don't know if that's the right word at all, but it sounds correct. So I'm using him for tournaments, especially. I mean, it's a smaller slate than usual. So if you want to sort of build a bunch of lineups, I'd throw Wright in there, but he's definitely not like a cash game arm or a first few lineup arm or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is also something to consider that this is the third time that Toronto has faced them. Which is kind of concerning for a knuckleballer because one, you can get a little bit better read, but Wright's been solid. So
he does have some nasty stuff. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the vines going out there, but man, he's got some crazy movement on those pitches. So third time around, but if he's throwing well, still a little tough to get a read on that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can be facing them 8 times, but if you have that knuckleball dance and just disappearing in the zone, it doesn't matter.
No.
On the other side.
And Stroman, I mean, I don't think even aces, I don't think you can throw out there against the Red Sox.
Yeah, I can't see. I mean, he hasn't surpassed over over 15 FanDuel points in this time against the Red Sox this season. He's faced them twice already.
Yeah.
So that's not good.
And I mean, yeah, they aren't hitting 10. They aren't scoring 10 runs a game like they were for that little streak there, but it's still very potent. I mean, Betts, Bogarts, Ortiz is just like a monster core. So I'm not touching them anytime soon in terms of pitching.
Yeah, there's better options. And as you mentioned, I mean, yes, they're not putting up that monster run score like they have, which, I mean, over a couple of games there. But still, I mean, number one against right-handed pitching, they don't strike out. So it's kind of just an easy stay away.
Right.
Next one here, you got the Angels and Pirates, Pittsburgh -120 favorites, over under of 8.5. This Chacin, Jeff Locke. This is the kind of situation where I kind of like a lot of the hitters in this game, so it's kind of drawn me to the point of like these guys aren't even going to be options even down the road after a couple of lineups for me.
Right. I think I kind of like the cheap options for the Angels are pretty good deals right now. Gregorio Pettit and Shane Robinson, they've actually been doing pretty well down on the bottom of the lineup there. So if they're in, I like them. Locke's all right, but I'm not really trusting him against this Angels lineup. So that's probably a fade for me. And my boy Ulis, second to Chase Anderson for me in terms in my heart, but I'm not touching him against this Pittsburgh team.
Yeah, and you look at this Angels offense. I mean, they've come around in the last 2 weeks. Top 10 in WOBA, so things are starting to get pieced together. I mean, Trout's heating up, and he's finally get some bats around him. So yeah, I think this game is just kind of a stay away, and there's more enticing hitters than there are in these pitching matchups.
And your boy Jung Ho Kang hit that homer last night.
He's a baller, man. 3-2 off Weaver. Weaver just, threw that beach ball in there, and he went to town. Unfortunately, no one did anything else for the rest of the game, but
I just pictured everyone going Jung Ho.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't on him last night, so I was angry. But I just pictured everyone putting their fist in the air and yelling Jung Ho like an old Western. Anyway, Locke. I think Locke's a tournament option, but much like Wright, not your first or second guy you're looking at, kind of like a secondary option.
Mm-hmm. Next game here, you got finally a decent pitcher here. We got White Sox and Tigers. Chris Sale versus Mike Pelfrey. Chicago minus 167 favorites, over under of 8. I think Sale's and obviously a play in all formats. You look at this Tigers team. Yes, they're heavily left-handed. They could be without Miguel Cabrera, who left the game last night. That would be something, but as righty heavy as the Tigers have been this season, they haven't been great against lefties. 17th in WOBA, a 23% strikeout rate. And the fact that it looks like it's kind of a decent win shot for Sale just because Pelfrey's on the other side, you feel comfortable using him in all formats.
Yeah, and I have a gripe with DFS, with the Tigers, and with the Red Sox. What the heck, guys? Let's figure this out. I need to stack them, and I want to put Victor Martinez with Cabrera, and I want to put Hanley with Ortiz.
You know what? This is the pitcher pod, Russell.
I'm just saying. I get excited when the Tigers are stackable, and then I go in on DK, and it's just like, oh, man.
But they're not stackable.
They are sometimes.
Yes, but we're not talking about them being stackable today.
No, they're not. Not in the least bit. Yes, I like Sale quite a bit. Cash game arm, potentially. Not out of this world expensive like Kershaw is on some slates. So, yeah, I'm definitely in on that. I mean, Tigers aren't necessarily a target team, but with Sale, I think they are.
Yeah, I mean, in FanDuel there, you're getting a $900 difference from Strasburg, so it is a pretty sizable note. Better ballpark that Sale's pitching as well.
Yep.
And Mike Pelfrey, definitely a guy you're kind of looking to stack against and get some bats in.
Definitely, yeah. And there's some pretty reasonable prices in that lineup, so definitely a place I'm looking.
Yeah. Rays and Twins, over under of 8.5, Tampa Bay minus 114 favorites. Matt Andriese, Irvin Santana. Andriese is a guy I don't hate in GPPs just because the price tag that's pretty low, and this Twins offense just isn't that good. Obviously, both these guys have lower floors than desired. But if Andriese comes with a win and throws a quality start, he'll pay off that price tag.
Yeah, I think, man, he's another guy where he's a secondary pitcher who might sneak in to more lineups than you'd even like on this type of slate. But yeah, he's in a decent matchup. The Twins aren't a great offense, but he's not necessarily a great pitcher either, so there is some blow-up factor here.
Yeah, and you look at this Twins team, 23% strikeout rate, 21st in WOBA. So, Vegas has tagged these games as kind of high scoring. They've been sort of correct. So I'm hesitant just based off what the prior two games have been, because these offenses can go off. And, even though they do rank in the bottom 10 in WOBA against righties, it's still like there's some bats that kind of get in there and frustrate you a little bit.
Yeah, the bottom of that Twins lineup is super weak right now with Suzuki, Grossman, and Buxton. So I think there's some strikeout potential there. But again, he's not. We'll see if Andriese can actually take advantage of that.
Yeah, no Miguel Sano, so that's kind of a bump to him as well.
Right.
And as far as Irvin Santana goes, I prefer Andres. I mean, he's been a little bit more quality this season. Santana, I think there's actually some viable raised bats against him.
Yeah, I like that call. The Rays are always sort of that contrarian under the radar stack that's always going to be underowned. So yeah, I do like that call.
Next game here, you got the Nationals and Reds. Steven Strasburg versus Dan Straley. Over under of 8. Washington minus 189 favorites. Strasburg's kind of, for me, the top option on this slate. Even in consideration to Sale, it's a weaker opponent. I know the ballpark's worse, but he's a heavier favorite, and Strasburg's just been dominant, and it's hard to get away from him.
Yeah, between him and Sale, you're gonna have some tough decisions to make. But I do like Strasburg. I think he slightly is just that strikeout factor. I think he has that a little bit on Sale right now. So I'm going with Strasburg for cash, and then maybe make another cash with Sale. But they're both cash game arms, you know.
Yeah, Strasburg, I mean, as you mentioned, the strikeout rate, 30.5%, ERA below 3 there. You look at Sale, I mean, he's been solid. Strikeout rate isn't quite as high as it was in the past, but I think both guys see, immense strikeout upside in these matchups. You look at these Reds team, and yes, they're kind of coming off one Coors game, so their numbers are going to be inflated over the last 2 weeks, but overall, I mean, they're not a good offense. They rank 24th in WOBA against righties, 22.4% strikeout rate. It's a nice matchup for Strasburg.
They're fun in the right matchup. But again, they're very matchup based. They do well like in really, really easy pitching situations, and then they get shut down with guys like this. So, yeah, all systems go for Strasburg tonight.
Yeah. A's and Astros here, over under of 8, Houston minus 125 favorites. Kendall Graveman versus Colin McHugh. It was originally Rich Hill, which is kind of a bummer because I was ready to just roll out Rich Hill because he's just absolute money.
Yeah, that strikeout rate versus the Astros would be mighty fine.
But we get Kendall Graveman, and he's not an option here. Colin McHugh, though, kind of intriguing.
Definitely an option.
Yeah, intriguing kind of spin down guy, 8K. Guy who's kind of found his strikeout rate of late, 8, 10, and 8 over the last 3 games there. Even before that against Baltimore and the White Sox, I mean, didn't pick up the win, but still threw quality games. And against this A's team, I think he's very much in play.
Yeah, good matchup for him. Again, you mentioned he kind of found his rhythm the last few starts, and he's got a decent offense behind him, and now Rich Hill isn't going against him, so I think he has a decent shot at a win too. So solid arm. I mean, he's no Strasburg, he's no Sale, obviously, but it's going to be tougher to go down to him in FanDuel, but for tournaments I can see that, and then you get that extra 4K or 3K to sort of fill out the rest of your position. So definitely a legit move. Very contrarian one on FanDuel, but yeah, I could see myself doing that in 1 or 2 tournament lineups.
I just feel like out of the guys around him, where you have Waka, Bartol Colon, Andres, Kennedy, Tomlin, Wright, like I feel more comfortable using him than some of those guys there, and I feel like he kind of has that stronger upside, even against this A's team.
Yeah, definitely.
Next one here, you got the Mets and Marlins, Bartolo Colon versus Justin Nicolino, 8.5 over under. I think these guys are just stay away names here at this point. And I know the Mets haven't really hit pitching well as far as lefties go, but Nicolino is not a strong arm, and you can get some bats kind of against him there.
Yeah. Nicolino just isn't really an option for me. I don't like that matchup with the Mets offense for him. But Colon, is the Marlins offense going to show up, I guess is the question. Because some nights they just don't show up. I'm not going to play him over McHugh or anything like that. But even though he hasn't been great, he hasn't been bad either. So cheap price. I'm not against him, but I'm probably not going to have many shares either.
Yeah, I mean, this Marlins team, I mean, they haven't been really that great. 25th in WOBA the last 2 weeks. I just don't see where Cologne fits in. I don't see the upside.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. It's not a bad like on those bad 5 game slates, I'd find a way to like, all right, I can do this. But tonight it's like there's not really a need.
Yeah, and he's not a heavy option as far as a wing goes either.
Right.
Breaking into the 7:15 games, and I mean, now we kind of get into the DraftKings slate and still kind of into FanDuel because they've broken that up. But 7:15, you have the Yankees and Orioles, 8.5 over under, Ivan Nova, Tyler Wilson. We kind of get into a stretch here where we're kind of taking FanDuel off the table because none of these guys are really in play because you don't need to. But DraftKings, right. We're kind of forced at hand in that main slate too.
Yeah, I smell some chaos on DK tonight, so that's where I'm gonna attack in tournaments. Definitely not a cash slate.
I don't think so either.
Not a cash slate at all. But yeah, this first game, Giants and Cardinals. The big question is when you look at it initially. Obviously, Kershaw's getting thrown in there, but what do we do with Samardzija here?
He's not in play.
Not in play.
10-2. I against the Cardinals, I can't. I mean, because eventually, you feel forced to pay up for like. There's no way of dancing around Kershaw on this slate. So pairing him up, I mean, that's 24 grand gone.
I know. I know. I mean, yeah, and you don't have the luxury of going with some of those Angels cheap bats and stuff like that because on DK it's just 7:15 and past. So I see him as a tournament option, but it's not a good matchup, and we've seen the Cardinals pick apart guys with what Samardzija is basically pretty regularly. So, yeah, not a good matchup. For 10-2, I mean, honestly, my standards aren't too high, but they're not too high for this entire pitching slate. So if he gets 20, could that be enough?
Yeah, but I still think, I mean...
On FanDuel, obviously, you're not touching him. Duh. But yeah. I'm talking about DK.
I don't know. I mean, the Cardinals have been struggling. I can see a reasonable backing to play him because he has shown some upside this year.
20's probably not enough, though. And if that's the logic, then I think you're right. He's not really in play. But
the problem I see is, okay, what if he doesn't get that 20?
What if he gets like 16,
the 13 of 15, and you get a Nathan Carnes down below who gets that same thing?
25.
That's a brutal drop down that's 4K.
Right. So, yeah. No, I'm with you. I think there is some weird contrarian tournament upside. I'm not sure how high on Samardzija is just because of Kershaw and what we talked about with roster construction, but yeah, not perfect. Not a good play. That's for sure.
Yeah, price considered, it's just tough to get him in. And Walk, on the other hand, I don't pick on this Giants team. I know Walk is fairly cheap.
Right.
I mean, he's a guy who might be able to turn in a quality start, but I don't see a win. And he hasn't really been that great this season. 1.50 whip. That's troubling.
Definitely troubling. Definitely hasn't shown the full signs of being back. I don't like this matchup against the stingy Giants offense. No thanks.
Yeah. Yankees, Orioles, Ivan Nova, Tyler Wilson, 8.5 over under. This is one I mean, both these guys are fairly cheap. I mean, outside of Nova, who's 8,500, but these two pitchers, I mean, not good, and these two offenses scare me in a pretty hitter-friendly park. So,
yeah. Yankees are really turning this offense around. I'm pretty surprised at this point, but on DK, Tyler Wilson, super cheap. I mean, like 4,700. I'm probably gonna do it just to see what I can fit in with Kershaw alongside him on DK. Obviously not touching him on FanDuel or unless you're on a suicide mission. But I think there's some weirdness you can do there in terms of tournaments. But yeah, not a good option by any means.
I mean, he's kind of intriguing because one, he's not going to give you a clean game where he's going to allow 1 earned, 0 earned runs. But,
No,
but you know what
not.
he's done? He's pitched in 2 games. He's pitched 6+ innings in the last 5 starts. He hasn't gotten the win in any of those but the Minnesota game where he got 15 points. I will gladly take 15 points
Yeah, right.
from Wilson at 4,700 pair up with the Kershaw. I actually don't hate that the more I'm looking into it.
Yeah.
That just kind of, like I feel bad saying it, but
You like it in the context of that slate, obviously. But I mean, yeah, and this Baltimore offense always gives him a chance at a win, you know. So, decent to bad option, but you know, gotta do what you gotta do. You don't have to be proud of every lineup you throw in there.
I'm certainly not going to be. But yeah, I think you can look. You plug both him and Kershaw. I mean, you got 3,900 left over, and I would rather use the Baltimore offense in that game than take Yankees.
Right.
So I think you can kind of make an establishment of not using Yankees and going Wilson, because the Yankees haven't been really a strong offense against right-handers this year. I mean, for the majority, I mean, they've been pretty weak, 27th in WOBA. So Wilson can turn out another quality start and actually get a win. He'll be pretty favorable at that price.
Definitely.
And there's a lot of guys that I don't see really reaching 15 even higher than him. So I think that's something to also consider.
Right, exactly.
Next one here, you got Royals and Indians. Ian Kennedy, Josh Tomlin. Over-under of 8, Cleveland -122 favorites. The Tomlin, you kind of scroll through the ESPN, you're like, oh, he's 7-1, 3.79 ERA. He's had some, solid performances, but you look at who he's done against: the White Sox, Cincinnati, the Mets. So you kind of look at these teams, and who he's really struggled against is pretty good offenses that put the bat on the ball, and that's the Royals.
And I mean, he's given up a home run in each of the last 7 games. I mean, that's bad. That's bad. He hasn't gotten completely shelled. Like, he hasn't had that blow up completely, other than obviously the Rangers game the last time. But he doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. That's for sure, especially for that price.
Yeah, you look at this Royals team. I mean, yes, they've been kind of up and down, but last 2 weeks, I mean, even with their banged up lineup, they're 3rd in WOBA, so they don't strike out still, and that's kind of. I don't see. I would just rather spin down to Wilson, to be honest.
Right.
I really would.
Yeah. Tomlin again in play for DK just because he's not like awful, but again, know what you're getting when you throw him in there. It's not someone you want a lot of shares of.
Yeah, and I think this game. I mean, this game is probably the one that serves with the most serviceable pitchers. Because Ian Kennedy on the other side, I mean, yes, there is some reasonable downside with him, but that's everyone on the slate. And you look at him, I mean, he's a guy who can throw a quality game. At 8,300, I don't mind the price tag. As long as he can keep the ball in the park against some of these lefties, he should be in a good spot to kind of grab a win as well.
Definitely. He's someone I'm looking at. Him and Tomlin are kind of in that same tier together where they're okay. All right, sure. You're not building a lineup around them. You're making contrarian lineups, so that's kind of how you're going with. I'd say those two and Wilson are probably the ones I'm going to be making my moves with in terms of contrarian tournament plays on DK, but I'm not too confident in any of them, but if you combine all 3 and make lineups with 3 of them in Kershaw, I think one of them will hit for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we're specifically talking SP2s at this point. There's one clear SP1.
Right. Yeah, no, it's not even a debate. So
get into later games, so there's no more FanDuel talk here. You got the 3 later games, which are on the DK slate. 9:05 Mariners and Rangers, over under of 9 here. Seattle -118 favorites. Nathan Carson, if this game was in Seattle, I would like him a little bit more, but I think this is kind of a game where outside of Yankees Orioles is where I really want to load up and get some bats in.
Yeah, unfortunately, Carnes is actually a pretty decent arm. So I have actually liked using him, but yeah, you mentioned the park factors, and then this Rangers offense is pretty solid. So, is Odor back?
Has it been 8 games already?
I
9
think it has
games?
been. If he's back in the lineup, that's even less of a reason to sort of go at Carnes. But yeah, again, he's in that tournament range where he could have a good start, but he has more blow-up factor than usual tonight, so probably an avoid.
Yeah, and either or, it's like even if Pro 4 is in the lineup, if I don't know if it's been 8 games or not, whatever it is, I'm still using those guys. I'm using him and Mazar as value plays at their prices tonight, so it just doesn't make sense for me to use Carnes.
Right, exactly.
And then Perez on the other side, I'm looking to get some Mariners bats. There's a lot of guys that I like. Obviously, Nelson Cruz price considered is up there, but there's too many bats that I'm going to be taking.
So on DK, I guess we should have this conversation quickly. Ownership percentage for Kershaw tonight in tournaments.
98%.
It's honestly going to be over 60%, right?
It has to be. It has to be in GPPs.
So at that point, do you just make weird lineups like stack the Mariners and hope they just blow up and then pay down at pitching for see what you can get? I mean, is that even reasonable, or is there just no way to fade Kershaw?
There's no way to fade Kershaw for me. I just look at what he's going to do, and he's going to get you 30-plus points tonight.
Right.
And, there's no other way around it. There's no other pitcher that's going to even come to 20-plus. Like, I just don't see that happening here.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So
just throwing it out there. He's going to be Mondo owned in everything tonight, so.
Yeah, I mean, as he should be.
As he should be. Oh, yeah, no, it's the correct move. That's why it's going to happen, but yeah.
Braves and Dodgers are minus 400 favorites. Over under of 6. The Dodgers are facing Bud Norris. Kershaw, I mean, we've been hinting. Is he in play tonight?
Well, I'm really worried about this Braves, the heart of this Braves lineup with Keith Lockhart and Javi Lopez and Andrew Jones. They're up and coming. Their pitching staff is a little erratic of late. Smoltzy hasn't been doing well out of the bullpen, but I think Bobby Cox is going to turn this team around.
We're talking modern day Braves, and they're dead last. They're dead last against lefties. 23% strikeout rate. They don't walk a bunch, and obviously Kershaw and his walk rate is just absolutely insane. Yes, he's expensive, but guess what? You're plugging him into your lineups regardless tonight.
Got to do it. I mean, 14K. But when you look at this matchup, this is what you want. You want a lefty ace versus the Braves. So this is it. If the Braves, what do you think the odds are of the Braves scoring a run? Like that's got to be 10-1. I don't see them scoring a run against Kershaw, but
no, I would look at that and just be like, I can't see them reasonably scoring a run. I mean, I know they did, I think, in the first start, but
yeah,
that was kind of before Kershaw turned into, a god, and it's just been lights out. But yeah, I mean, I think their over-under sit at like 2, and I would take the under. I really would.
So what you're telling me is contrarian Brave stack?
Oh my God! Here we are. We're moving on to the next game here. Colorado and Padres, and I mean this one has the lowest over/under. It's outside of the Dodgers game, of course, but 7.5 in comparison to the Rangers and all those other games. These guys they're two bad pitchers, and I think that's what the problem is for me. Even if it's a decent park and decent matchups, I'm still not kind of on it. I prefer just rolling out Wilson.
Yeah, unlike a lot of the options we mentioned where you begrudgingly put them into your lineups, I'm looking at Cashner, and I just don't think I can do it. I don't have the heart for it. And I mean, I know the Rockies aren't great away from Coors, but they still have some upside, So this isn't. He's just not an option.
Yeah, Chad Bettis, I mean, I could see using 5,600. I mean, he threw a quality start and got the win in the first matchup against the Padres. And obviously the Padres have been hitting the ball well of late, but they faced 3 bad lefties. Different story with Bettis. I mean, obviously he gets away from Coors, which is nice, but still hasn't really been that great. I mean, still an ERA over 5. But if you're banking on kind of the Padres going back to the norm, I think Bettis is kind of a viable option, actually.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It is what it is on tonight's slates, and it's not a fun one, to be honest.
Oh man,
it might be fun to you because you enjoy the chaos. You love when just no one has a
trash man.
Too.
The trash man.
God, that's gonna wrap things up here with the Pitcher Nail Down. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all great tools and content.